Hello and welcome to a video, everybody. Today we're going to talk about effectively a two-step basing method that I have, but I wanted to cover this real quick before we get into that. And I'm going to use some of the miniatures I show in the video. So if you'll give me a couple seconds, I'll go over this real quick and then we'll get right into the basing elements. Alright, so when I do the basing, I do a mix between an old texture paste I had, just a basic plain one, and I use a baking soda mix that has old cutoffs or nibs off of the models and small parts of cork and some other elements from there. Effectively waste from when I'm building models, and those all get mixed up and I use them to create the bases. So the ones that I'm going to show here are this Blood Angel Sergeant and these three Foot Knights from Wargame Atlantic for the Baron War. They're prepared for a later video, but effectively you can see these are what the end result is, with three different intensities from the Rubby Fur Speed Paint. I primed them and then I just ran that over it. You can see a little bit of the prime sticking out there, but you can see with the different intensities. But this, I think, gives a good example if we zoom in of how they look. It's nothing extravagant or crazy or amazing, but it does give you something to work from. You can pick out some of the larger bits as rocks, so on and so on, and then if you add in some grass or shrubs, it'll look fantastic for that. So that is with the Rubby Fur, and what I did was I used it straight out with the one in the middle, and the two on the sides, I ended up mixing water into them and putting them on in different intensities. The one on the right is the one that has the least intensity as the rain kicks up outside, and so on and so on. So that's a good example of that. And then we're going to come over here and look at the Sergeant. Now we're going to do a little turn around, if it allow us to do that. And I knock his head off. Brilliant. Effectively, this is Cloudburst Blue from Speed Paints, and it has a little bit darker on one side because I wasn't sure about how much I was going to water it down, and a little bit lighter on the other. Alright, well, we'll fix his head later, but I just wanted to hit that up real quick. There's some examples of how they can look, and let's get to the main part of the video. Hello and welcome to a very special video. Today we're going to do a little quick and dirty, as I adjust these guys, a bit of basing. Now I do my basing in two steps, and I start that with a texture paste. Now I don't generally put a texture paste straight up in the, let's go back a little bit. There we go. In a straight opacity. You can do that, but I don't generally like to do that. So how I tend to do it, as I struggle to remember where I put some stuff to put all of it, is I'll take a container like this and I will, let's just say, throw a decent little amount in there. Let's throw a little bit more in, just to cover us real quick. It's not a pure measurement, so if you're thinking about how much you need, experience, but generally don't put too much in at the same time, don't put too little in. You could find yourself in a situation where, well, you just don't have enough, and then you have to go and do more, because there is a drying time with this. So we're going to throw that in there, and I'm just going to throw some water in. The amount of water depends. I probably used too much there, but we'll work with that. We got a decent amount of basing to do. Oh yeah, I put way too much in. You're going to want it to be somewhat thin for what you're going to do in this style of basing. You could put way more in. I'm just being a little bit awkward because of the position, but we're going to adjust. We're just going to throw another dude down there, and we're going to pop this texture thing open. as we struggle with the camera in place. And we're just gonna throw a little bit more in there. Bam. I got a lot of things to take care of, but we'll just show you on a couple of these guys, especially these knights, because we're trying to prepare them for some painting. So, as I said, we're just going to mix it in there. Don't use as much water as I did, but, you know, I'm being a fool. And we'll get to that in just a second. Alright, off camera, we just went and brought it down a little bit, and that's about effectively what you're gonna get. You're gonna get into a bit of a slurry. It's still gonna be a tiny bit chunky. You're not worried about how chunky or not chunky it is. You're just trying to get it into a position to use accurately, or, you know, to at least get onto well, our item of interest in this case. And well, we're just gonna grab something that we can use to scoop some of it up. This is just a bit of a toothpick. That's a lot. That's better. And we'll just go ahead and drop it back in the slurry. We're doing great. Very professional. And bam. There we go. Now, this is going to take a bit of working, so it'll be a bit of a mess initially. But what you're wanting to do is you want to work it in near the feet, and ideally you could use just about anything. I'm just using this bit of toothpick to spread it out a bit. We're not trying to remove any of the hills or anything that appears naturally from this, because we're just squishing it. You can see it can kind of go a decent amount. Now, I'm being a little awkward because I got this camera in my face at the moment, but what we're going to do is just do this all the way around it, and then you'll clean up around the rim here. You can see it squishes out here. We're going to get a good amount of use out of this, and we'll be right back with the rest of this. Alright guys, so we're at this state. As you can see, they're a little bit wet still, but we don't want them to get too dry. As I get my arm out of the way, so they're going to, as they dry out, contract a bit, and you'll get more definition as time goes on. But if you want to use this technique, you can't let it dry out too much. You can let it dry out more than this, but you need to be somewhat careful. So what I have is, if I can find the stuff I should oh my. I have a mix, which is a good chunk of, let's go ahead and just bring it around here. There we go. It's a chunk of, if you're wondering why it's off color, this is reused baking soda. I actually had colored it and used it for different basing before, and then I just crushed it back up and I'm using it again, which is a great thing about this because you can easily crush it. But it has different parts of cork, different pits of nibs that you cut off the models when you're cleaning them to construct them, all that fun stuff. Just mixed into this baking soda. Now, of course, you don't want to just use dirty baking soda. This isn't what this is. It's just reused from previous basing. Alright, so let's just go ahead and drop that down there. We're going to draw the camera back a little. We're just going to take our converted blood angel. I'm going to put him right in there. And if you used any of the quick basing mediums or any of that, this is going to seem really familiar to you in that regard. And what it does is it adds a little bit. Let's go ahead and just hold him there for a sec and zoom in. It's going to add a little bit. Let's try a little bit more to it. Now, I didn't really catch any of the bigger pieces of the cutoff, but I got a few little bits on there. It's going to give it a little bit more character. And as you can see, the ground is very uneven, even though, considering we didn't do that much other than just apply really wet basing material to it. Now, part of the reason he didn't get much in there, as we're going to repeat this, is you need to be a little bit more controlled than I am being at the moment. But you'll get a decent bit of stuff on there. Nothing really unrealistic or crazy. So there we go. I'll try to get one that has a little bit more on there. I'm going a little too deep. Ha ha ha. And I'm not... You really should scoop it forward and then shake the stuff backwards. You'll get, like this guy, more little bits that when you prime him will look like rocks and whatnot. We're also going to give him a little bit of a tappy tap. And there we go. Now you can leave that on there. You don't want to be too crazy. Just a little tap on the side. And let's get our third guy in the mix. And we're going to try to use our brain. And just a little tap, little tap. Nothing super violent. You're just giving it a small tap. If we could get this to focus. Let's go ahead and just zoom in a little more. That's the opposite of what I was doing. But you can see what it's doing. It's nice, actually, and it works out pretty well. There's a bit of a pattern there. I'll probably cover it up when I'm officially doing the stuff with it. And let's get a couple of these guys back in place so we can see them a little bit better. Oh my gosh, he looks huge next to them. My gosh, I'm doing a terrible job. I apologize, guys. Done on the fly. But as you can see, for the most part, this is before priming. Once it starts to dry, you can see that the color, it's a bit orange. I used an orange paint in the previous mix. It turns into a pretty decent little way of doing it. Now, I did do such a great job on our man here. If we can get the camera to do it. But, you know, sometimes it's a success, sometimes it's not. Let's grab our guy here. Now, it was a little bit nicer here. It's not going to get a huge amount of crazy stuff on there. It's just going to add a little bit of flavor. Also, the thing with the baking soda is it will help the mix set a little bit more. And it adds a little bit of an extra little layer of grit to it. But it's a good medium to get some of these elements and to reuse some of the nibs and bits off of your work, especially if you're working with any cork. You can take some of that and throw that in there. You can throw the nibs in there. You can reuse the baking soda. So if you have get some of those baking soda things, you can use those, and you can use it multiple times. I'll probably be substantially older before this mix of mine is completely done. Plus, the other thing with this, advantage-wise, is that if you have a basing medium like me that's been drying out, you can still reuse it by just adding the water, mixing it till it's a slurry, slapping it on these bases, and have a pretty decent-looking little base. So that's what the basing thing for today. Hopefully you guys have a great time. Hopefully this is somewhat useful. Let me know what you guys think and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.